Hi, I'm Grace,
And I'm Prisca.
and this is the Fighting Club, a space where being together makes us stronger.
Take a break and hang out with us.
All right, so this is a different form of the bestie check-in, but how are you doing mentally?
Mentally, I am doing okay.
Hmm.
Right before this, I just did like 5 minutes of playing piano to just
Mm.
relax and loosen up.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, because I think I always bring in have a little nervous energy before recording because I still
Hmm.
feel a little self-conscious. But I'm
Mm.
feeling good now. Yeah. How about
Oh,
you?
good. I want to be where you're at. Um, by the way, I like your top and I'm loving your background.
Are you
Um,
saying that because you feel bad about
huh? Oh,
the
because I called you basic, a basic B. Is that why you dressed up today? So that you
maybe?
you're like, I'm gonna break out of that basic B stereotype. No, you look great. I really like that color on you.
Thank you.
Your shirt matches my luxurious background better than
It's
me
very
because I'm
lush.
like wrinkly over here. I need to iron it out. Um, mentally, I think physically I'm tired and mentally is making me tired. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think I need to see a spiritual director or therapist.
Mhm.
What are we talking about today, Prisca?
Today we are looking back on our time in our 20s when we lived in New York City together. Yeah,
That was a
that was
fun time.
a wild time.
And we always talk about it whenever we see each other in Seattle or
Mhm.
wherever we are. It's like the 20s in New York were like a pivotal moment in their young adult life. Is that why? Why do we talk about New York all the time?
I don't know, like, I think I mean, it was really fun. I think in
Mm.
our 20s, we just have so much energy
Mm.
and we want to, try new things and we're living in New York City.
Mm.
So that was fun, but also being
Mm.
in our young 20s,
Mm.
really searching for a sense of ourselves. There were
Mm.
some rough times, I think.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we're 22 to 24.
I went to New York to attend grad school
Hmm.
for social work. So I got admitted and then I literally went straight from college. I
Hmm.
graduated and then next month I started my program in New York. It was
And this
very
is
rushed.
it's from Atlanta to New York, right? Emory to Columbia.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think at that time there was a sense of wanting to get out
Yeah.
and in a new environment,
Yeah.
a little bit of escape.
Mm.
Yeah. And what took you to? Well, I went there first, and then you
Yeah.
came a little later.
Yeah,
And
because you
what
went a
reason
month
did you
after
go?
graduation, like in June or
Mm-hmm.
something. Um, I was in college at BC in Boston, and then I got into this paralegal program at a law firm in New York. And then at the time, my college best friend and roommate, Lena Kim, who I love and is a big supporter of our Fighting Club podcast, um, she also moved to New York without a job, but just trying to figure out her next steps. But
Mm-hmm.
we lived in New York City for 2 years together, 22 to 24, after living together in college for 3 years. So it's like 5 years of like a lot of changes in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be fun to reflect on that time.
Mm-hmm.
And, there were some rough waters,
Mm-hmm.
but also thinking about what were the things that kept us grounded.
Yeah, okay. We can talk about all of
Yeah.
that. I think we should talk about the fun stuff like
Mm-hmm.
party time and times in Koreatown on 32nd Street.
You went out a lot more than me. I
Yeah,
remember
why
feeling like, wow, she can party.
why was that? How come you didn't join me?
I think like initially it honestly didn't feel like my scene.
Oh, okay.
Like even in college, my
Hmm.
freshman year, I remember all the girls in the hall were like, getting ready to go to the clubs.
Yeah.
And I stayed in and played board games with my roommate, which is fine.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's just sort of who I am. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, so I didn't do it as much, but I did go out sometimes. But there were
Mm.
times when I would pregame with you guys, and then I would just be like, bye, go have fun. And
We were looking at photos last night of
yeah.
us when we were in our early 20s in New York, and there's some pregame photos before I think my birthday party, right?
Hmm.
And also just going out photos.
Yeah. Yeah. So
We can show
I'd have
them.
my little bit of fun in,
Hmm.
being a homebody. And then you guys would go out, and I think I stayed in and like did my homework, like did my
Wow.
work for class.
Nerd.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great, but like I was just thinking like do you remember my birthday party? I think it was my 23rd or maybe 24th birthday party at the club.
I remember very
Yeah,
vividly.
I think it was a joint birthday party with my friend Danielle from college,
Hmm.
and we had like maybe 20 to 30 people, maybe more. We got table service. What were we thinking at 23 getting table service, just blowing our money away? Yeah, we got table service. I remember wearing this like my birthday is near Christmas. I was wearing like this green shimmery satiny,
Like green
kind of like your
blue.
shirt,
It was like bluish, right?
bluish greenish and
Peacock
like really
blue.
tight.
It was really nice. I liked it. Like you
Yeah.
look fabulous.
Yeah.
We need to put a picture of that.
Let's put a picture of
Yeah.
that. Um, yeah, but I was a mess that
You were
night.
gone. You were gone.
I
I
was gone.
took you home that night.
I think the bouncer told me if this woman doesn't know how to stand up on her own, she needs to leave the club. And so people had to hold me
We had
up
to leave. We had to
to
leave. Yeah.
vacate.
We took the
But
cat home.
we had digital camera photos back then. We don't have phone cameras. It was like flip phones. And so our digital cameras, Canon or something, captured all the photos from that night before I had to leave. So it looked like
Hmm.
we had a great time.
Yeah. I mean, we're
And
not gonna take photos of us messed up and throwing up or anything.
oh my God, yeah. So somehow were you in the car with Lena and me? I don't know who was all in the car, but
I was in the car. I might have slept over that night. I slept over at your place a lot on the nights that we went out because I lived in Queens
yeah.
and it was just too much of a trek to try to get back home after a late night.
Sunnyside, right?
Astoria and then
Oh yeah,
Sunnyside.
that's right, Astoria and then
When I lived
Sunnyside.
in Sunnyside, oh my gosh, I lived in because I also didn't really know what my situation was going to be like. And so the girls that I was living with in Astoria moved to Sunnyside and I ended up moving with them, but I lived in like the living room.
I remember that.
It
It
was a
was so
two-bedroom apartment with three other girls, and I lived in the living room, and there was a shower curtain that covered my futon, and it was attached to the front door. So anytime anyone opened the door, the curtain would, um, just
think.
release tension and yeah, just droop down, and you could see me. Hello. So there was no privacy.
Do you
Yeah,
remember how much you paid for that makeshift bedroom in with a
I don't
curtain?
remember maybe like 400. I don't remember, but I remember in a story when I had my own bedroom, it was like 7 or 800.
Hmm.
I mean, at the time, that was expensive. It's probably gone up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because
Yeah.
Lena and I lived in Upper East Side and then Midtown East, and I think both places were about 11 or to $1,300 per person, which that was expensive back then. That was
Yeah.
how many
And
years
I
ago was
moved
that?
to Queens because it was more affordable.
I think
But
it's
I
funny that you used to live in Sunnyside and then just a few years ago, this is my third time living in New York now, and I'm in Bed-Stuy. That I moved to Sunnyside and I was like, wow, this is where Prisca used to live. I really like this neighborhood. It's very
yeah.
neighborhoody and
Yeah.
a lot of families and stuff, but just like thinking
Yeah.
back to our 20s.
It felt more neighborhoody, and I think like I experienced like culture shock moving
Oh,
to New York.
yeah.
And I really didn't know anybody. I knew like one person when I
Right.
moved there. And so I was so happy when you came.
Oh.
But just like going from Atlanta, where there's like Southern
Oh
hospitality,
yeah.
you're driving everywhere, but when you like see someone in an elevator or at the restaurant, you're interacting and people are smiling at you. And if you talk to like your waiter at the restaurant, you have like a full-blown conversation.
Yeah.
But in New York, the first couple of days I was there just like alone because the one person that I knew was out of the country, I think. And so I just explored the city by myself. And after a couple of days, I realized must have passed by like thousands of people
Mm,
while I'm exploring the city, and
mm,
nobody has said a word to me. And I
mm.
have not used my voice at
Oh,
all.
wow.
Nobody has spoken to me. And then
Mm,
I
mm,
was at a bookstore. I realized this at a bookstore because this one like woman approached me and it mentioned the book that I was holding in my hand, and she was like, "Oh, I really like that poet." And I was like,
mm,
"Oh my gosh." I realized she was the first person who had addressed me in those like couple days that I was there.
mm.
And yeah, I ended up moving to Queens because of the cost of
Yeah.
rent. But also I liked that it felt more neighborhoody.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
But
was in
you've
the
been there
middle.
for a while now.
Hmm.
Do you feel like just
Hmm.
really like you even maybe absorbed the culture and
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Um, I remember when my siblings first visited me in New York, maybe a year in or a year and a half. My younger brother and sister came to visit, and I was taking them to Chelsea Market. This was like 15 years ago. And then I was asking someone for directions at a bodega how to get to Chelsea Market. And this is before Google Maps, I think, on our phone and everything. So
Mhm.
I asked for the directions and then just left. And then my sister asked, how come you didn't say thank you to the person who just gave you the directions? And I was like, I got what I wanted and I got what I needed. I just need to leave. And she's like,
Mhm.
why are you so cold-hearted and harsh? And I was just like, huh, am I a different person now? And they're like, yeah, you have become so much more rough
Mm.
than pre-New York. And I think New York really, really, especially when I was 22, because we are young, we look young, and there were actually a good number of people trying to take advantage of us, whether they were brokers who were trying to rent from, taxi cab drivers before Ubers would take us in a loop, especially if you're a
Yeah.
woman, and not take us
Mhm.
directly to our destination, and a lot of men being creepy and stuff. So I remember just my siblings' reaction, and they're like, "Oh, you're becoming like a really not no longer a Georgian and like super tough." And now 15 years later, living back in New York in my late 30s, I think I still have a better balance. I think I have that suspicion of people, especially in New York when I'm, you know, people usually if they're trying to talk to you in the subway, they are trying to swindle something from you or like get
Mhm.
something from you. People don't usually talk to you if you don't know them just to be
Yeah,
nice. I
yeah.
remember when I was in Seattle, maybe on my first or second visit to see Trevor's parents, there was this truck driver in Seattle who stopped at a stop sign and then waved and said hi to us. And I was like, what do they
Mhm.
want? Why are they saying hi to us? I know. That's
Wait,
like
but were they smiling?
yeah, but I was
Oh.
suspicious because my New York self of being suspicious of just any stranger talking to us.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, and then I was like, oh, that guy was actually really nice. Like he wasn't trying to like do something bad to us.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I get it. I felt like after I left New York and returned to Atlanta,
Hmm.
I felt like I changed.
Yeah,
Like
in what way?
really hardened,
You hardened.
very suspicious of
Yes.
people. Like everybody's out to get me. They're trying to cheat me and nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah. And because of these experiences,
Mm-hmm.
um, like I went to this one place every day for coffee, like this bodega. And one day I realized, oh, he shortchanged me.
Oh.
And so I went back and I was like, oh, you didn't give me back the correct change.
Mm,
And then he actually looked annoyed at me.
mm,
Like it seemed like he did it on purpose and then
mm,
was annoyed that he got caught and he
mm,
gave me my correct change.
mm.
But I was like, I come here every day. Why are you trying to cheat me of a couple dollars?
Yeah.
So I
Where
didn't go back after that. And then
yeah. Oh.
really like honestly scary cab moments.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so and being 20s, I came in very wide-eyed and innocent and naive, and then experiencing that and walking on the streets, you're so visible, right? You're
Yeah.
just walking every day, everywhere.
Yeah.
The cat calling,
Yeah, the cat calling.
the yeah, sometimes like very nasty stuff
Yeah.
that is said, or behavior too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I just became very like disillusioned and
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially when you're 22, because like we just graduated from college from our campus bubbles, like at Emory in Atlanta and then Boston College in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, and then getting thrown into the big city. I think it's just like it was a lot. And I feel like
Yeah.
my partying behavior, because I would go out like 3 to 4 times a week to Koreatown. I was
Mhm.
like not trying to be a K-Town queen, but I basically was. And I feel like it was like a reaction to the stresses of the job, the stresses of navigating myself as a young 22-year-old and who am I and
Yeah.
what do I believe in and what is the point of life? All these
Yeah.
questions,
And that's
you
normal.
know?
I think like testing your boundaries and your limits and just trying to discover
Oh my God.
through these new experiences.
Yeah,
Um,
and meanwhile, my mom is in Korea and she's cacao talking me and she's like, 그래 있어. 술 마시지 마. 술집에 가지 마. While I'm at like third floor, which no longer exists, but it was like, they had the Tuesday happy hours where you get a bucket of
mhm,
beer and chicken for $25 unlimited or something. I'm like,
mhm.
okay, Oma. And then I hang up on her and then like I go back to drinking my beer and my fried chicken, eating my fried chicken. So bad.
No, there were there times where what was this when we were together or when I was visiting you in New York where we went out partying and I'm like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I went back home. And then when I woke up, that was when you came home in the morning,
Yeah.
but then you had to go straight to work.
Yeah. I think you and Jeff were dating and it was later. It was
Oh,
like
yeah,
you
with
guys came
Jeff.
back to New York and I was living there or something. And I
We were
went
still
out.
young. It's still our 20s,
It's still in
right?
our 20s, early 20s, and you guys are just dating. And then you guys were sleeping over, I think, at my place, and we went out to some birthday party that you guys had, and then I went out even afterwards, some probably Koreatown. Got home at 4 or 5. You
I think
guys
you came when we were leaving to go to the airport or something.
something like that. And then I had to like quickly shower, change, maybe take a nap, and then get ready to go to work.
Mhm. I was like, wow, Grace has very high capacity. Like, what is she running on? Because even though you had no sleep, no, actually, that night when we went out, we were getting ready.
Yeah.
You might have been partying the night before too, because I think we both took a nap
Uh-huh.
and they were like, okay, let's get up because we have to go out. We're getting ready, dress up, put on our makeup. And while you were putting on your makeup, you're like falling asleep. But then when we went out, you were on, high energy, having fun. And I'm sure that when you went to work, you were also still like on. Because I've seen you even recently when we were like working together,
Mm,
going from one thing to the next, you're always on.
mm,
And
mm,
I'm just like, how do you do that? I
mm,
wish I
mm.
had that ability.
Well, I mean, I do crash. I'm human. So like after it
Yeah.
all ends, I'm
So
like
is it
sleeping for
you
2 days.
have moments where you crash or you
Hmm.
take naps
Hmm.
to re-energize and then
I mean,
go to the
clearly this
next
is
thing?
not a healthy lifestyle. And
Yeah,
well,
I'm not saying you should continue it,
oh
but
yeah, yeah.
I am in awe of your
Yeah,
ability.
but when I was 22, I had way more energy than now. And when people meet me, new friends that have met me in the last couple years, they're like, wow, you have so much energy. I'm like, you have no idea how much more energy I had in my early 20s. Like
Mhm.
I was on fire. Like if I put that energy that I put into going out into something productive, like
Mhm.
I don't know, I could have like started a tech company and made $1 billion or something.
No, but I think, yeah, you are taking more care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even
Well,
when you visited here recently, I was like, you want to go out? You want to go out? I was like, I'm ready to go out. But then you're like, I want to stay in.
yeah.
Okay,
I know you're like, wait, you're like
good
the
too.
friend who always wants to go out.
Yeah.
I mean, no, that is true. I want to hear more about your any stories you have about your time in New York, friendship, roommates, family
Um,
visiting.
yeah, let's see. In New York, I would
Mhm.
say I was definitely in a very like toxic friendship
Mm.
that started before you came.
Mm.
And I didn't know I didn't know it at the time, but it was really bringing me down. My
Mm.
sense of like self-worth,
Yeah.
my confidence. I was becoming just a darker version of myself without knowing it.
Oh.
And we really only hung out with each other. Like this
Mhm.
friend didn't have much other friends. And
Oh, red
so
flag.
I think it was really helpful to have my own friends, from my school. And then
Mhm.
when you came, just
Mm.
as a reminder of what healthy friendship looks like.
Mm.
And it started to speak to me about,
Mm.
what are my boundaries and is this okay?
Mm.
And some of my school friends actually talked to me and were like, I think you need to cut it off with this friend.
Oh, wow.
And so I did.
Good.
After maybe a year, I
Mm.
just totally cut off communication, like even no explanation. I mean,
Mm.
that was just how unhealthy it was. Like we
Right.
really just could not talk about it, and I just had to cut it off.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, but it was really hard because this was somebody who I did see as a good friend, and we had known each other for a while and gone through things together. And
Mm.
people who really didn't know the situation,
Mm.
they were in other states,
Mm.
telling me, "Oh, you should be there for this person," and
Mm.
they're going through a hard time.
Mhm.
And so I was like, "Yeah, I should be there for them." and really stick it through. Because I had this idea that every friendship you can just work through it if you just try hard enough. And if
Yeah.
it's not working, it's because you're not committed.
Oh,
And you could
man.
be doing something different to be
That's real.
supportive. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that was a big lesson for me in New York.
Mhm.
I think that was the first time I had to, that was the first time I cut somebody out. And it was hard, it was new.
Mhm.
But after I did that,
Mhm.
I felt so much better, like almost like this
Good.
immediate sense of relief.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm thankful for during that time, my dad visited
Mm.
me in New York. And then also my uncle had visited me.
Mm.
And with my uncle, I shared about the situation with my friend.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And because I was starting to question and like doubt this friendship, and
Mm.
my uncle gave advice like, you, no good friend would ever make you feel this way.
Mhm.
Friends build each other up. They don't
Yeah.
bring you down. And
That's
that
a good
struck me.
uncle.
And then when my
Yeah.
dad visited, um, he just expressed, as a dad, concern and gentleness and care. And I was like, well, I hadn't really experienced that in a while, like, because it was so not non-existent in my friendship.
Mm.
So, in that friendship, it was just very harsh, mean, and
Oh,
unkind. Yeah, but I took
no.
it because I thought, oh, they're just in a, in a bad season. They're struggling. And
It's
so I
that
tried
word
to
in
make it.
Korean that's like chama. You just chama everything. You just hold it all in and
Mhm.
just deal with it, and things will get better with time, but it doesn't.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's gonna be times we'll go through different seasons,
Yeah.
and maybe I might say something hurtful,
Right.
but there's like a line,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
I felt like the line was crossed so many times, like
Oh, I'm
instantly,
so
where it
sorry.
started to affect me as a
Mhm.
person.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, I definitely learned a lot from that and was able to come out of it through just good
Mm.
people in my life. And I think we've talked about this before,
Mm.
not having just only like one friend.
Right.
I think we need a like a circle,
Oh,
I think, of
totally.
people.
It's too much to expect that out of one person or even like your own partner or husband. Like they can't be everything to you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's very true.
Mm. What do you think you've learned from letting go of that toxic friendship from your early 20s in New York?
I think I learned that friendships can end for
Mm.
any reason. I mean, it doesn't even have to look like that. It
Right.
could just be, it can be uh, a polite ending, a
Yeah.
good ending,
Right.
um, and then you're allowed to grieve the loss of a friendship.
Yeah. I agree.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
and yeah, just learning more about myself, like my boundaries, and
Mm.
yeah, you don't have to be everything for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think I took in a lot of what other people said,
Mm.
and that influenced me a lot, but I didn't really know what I wanted for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that for me was part of being in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
not really knowing myself and
Yeah.
feeling a little lost, and then
Mm-hmm.
making some uh, mistakes or
Mm-hmm.
choices that led to big learning experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm.
How about for you? What were your relationships like at that time?
I was so grateful that I had two of my childhood best friends, you and Christine, in the city when I moved to New York, along with my college best friend, Lena. So I just feel very blessed to have like people from home and then someone from a couple, I had some other college friends in New York too, because Boston's so close to New York. But I think honestly, I was an immature friend and not the best of friends. So I do remember like Lena was a great roommate to me, and she's more introverted than I am. I'm like just so used to that open door policy, like I mentioned before, in our
Mhm.
home where it's like a community center, and like not realizing not everyone is comfortable with that kind of environment for their home. So I think I should have like checked with her, like, are you okay with having people over to like pregame like every week at our
Mhm.
place? She probably wanted more privacy, and I'm not like the cleanest person. I'm not like the messiest, but I think I could be an annoying roommate to people who are have a particular way of cleaning and doing things. And I think I could have done more with my shared chores in the house. So I
Mhm.
really, I know we were young and we could have done better, but I think I do wish I could have been a better roommate in that sense. But I think I
Mhm.
did try my best to understand and be supportive of my roommate and friends then. But I think there's a lot of things when you're 22 to 24 where you don't know how to make sense of the world around you. And it's hard to deal with all the emotions. Because I remember one year in, I was running in Central Park, training for a half marathon. And I just started, it was a beautiful sunny day. And it was like in maybe springtime. And I remember just bawling my eyes out while I was running because I felt so lonely and so
Mhm.
depressed. I felt like, I felt like I was the only person in the world, and just like this deep, deep sorrow just started to come out while I was running in this beautiful, bright, sunny day.
Mhm.
And it was just interesting to think like in such a big city like New York, where there's so many people, like you mentioned, when you first move, you can feel like the frenzy of all the bodies. And even with friends like you, Christine and Lena and others, I felt depressed and so alone. I think
Mhm.
if I felt that, I'm sure my roommate and other friends did, but I didn't know how to support others. And I also didn't know how to share and ask for help.
Yeah, I totally relate to that
Yeah.
because it's like I've had those moments where it's like it's not like I don't have friends,
Right.
but yeah, what feeling so lonely
Yeah.
and just like crying by
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like this deep despair kind of.
Despair is a guttural cry.
Yeah. And I honestly like I think we learned more about how to provide emotional care and support for each other
Mm.
later in our
Yeah.
friendship
Oh,
because
totally.
yeah, in our 20s we're just like connecting through these like fun times. And we
Young,
were
wild, and free.
yeah, we were there for each other. Like I
Yeah.
think one time I had issues with my ex and I called you and I came over and I
Yeah.
ended up sleeping over. you, you're probably so tired. But I'm like, I just saw him, or I don't even remember what happened. But yeah, I really appreciated that you were there for me. Um, yeah, it was fun, but also rough.
Yeah.
Our time
No,
in
I
New
think
York.
I think it was rough, but I think it was also helpful because we were I had my church community too, and I would go to small group at Remnant West Side and then go to church on Sundays at Redeemer.
I did that too.
Didn't you go to
But
ch
I was there earlier. I don't know. There was, I think,
Mhm.
we didn't have an overlap at for some
We did
reason.
at Redeemer, right? We go to church Sunday
Oh, we
services.
went to Redeemer together
Hmm.
on Sundays.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I think I started going to the other church small group, but then I stopped. Um, I don't know. It was too similar to, I guess, like my past church experience.
Yeah.
And I think I needed to get out of that
Yeah. Take a
kind of
break.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
But yeah,
I
we
think
would always
yeah.
go together to Hunter College.
Yeah, Hunter College, Upper East Side.
Yes. Yeah.
Tim Keller would preach when he was still alive. This was like 15 years ago. So he was
And you'd fall asleep.
during the sermons, probably because I was out like partying all the time in K-Town.
But this was our way, like trying to, find ways to stay grounded. I feel like we really made these different kinds of efforts. This was one way.
That's true. The consistency of like showing up for church services, even though I fall asleep in that.
hmm When Obama got elected,
Yeah,
that was fun.
that was fun.
And
We
then
were
we went
so
to the
cute.
inauguration ceremony together.
Do you remember how cold that was?
It was so freaking cold. That's honestly all I remember. I wish
Me
that
too.
wasn't the case, but that was the biggest thing I remember from that trip.
I thought my toes and my fingers were going to fall off, even though we had hand warmers and feet warmers. It was like we waited in line starting at 3 a.m., waited outside. It was like below freezing, like 20 something
Yeah,
degrees, and we're outside for like 7 hours.
it was rough. By the time that the ceremony started, I don't know if I was like in my body. I was really trying hard to be present, but so much time had passed enduring the cold up to that point. But I mean, it was like such a cool moment to
It
be a part
was.
of.
Yeah.
And do you remember how I got those tickets?
Yeah, you want to share? Because I totally remember that. I think it's
I was
funny.
talking to this guy. We had reconnected, and I guess we were trying to like explore if there was something that could happen between us. And he worked for Mike Pence at the time. And politically, we were like a little bit, we were different. And so sometimes our conversations were awkward because there were some things we didn't align on. And obviously, it didn't end up working out, but he asked me, like, oh, do you want to go to the inauguration? Even though he hadn't voted for Obama, but he had these tickets because everybody on staff gets these two
Yeah,
tickets. And
congressional staff. Yeah,
yeah,
get
and I was
tickets.
like, oh, I already committed to go with my friend where we already made plans to go to DC and try to be part of it in some way. And
Even though we didn't have tickets.
yeah, and then he was like, oh, I'll just give you guys the tickets, which is really
Oh.
nice of him.
That was nice of him.
Yeah.
Thank you to the former
Thank
Penn
you.
staffer.
Yeah.
It's so funny when you told me that it was Mike Pence. I was like, the Mike Pence, the
Yeah.
VP.
And
Like
I
that's
didn't even remember it came back to me,
it's
after Mike
such a
Pence.
crazy world. The world is so small.
Yeah. But we
Wild.
didn't have any sleep because we went
Yeah.
and then crashed at your friend's house,
We did.
but
Okay.
we slept for like an hour and then we had to head
Mm,
out for the inauguration and waited in the cold. And then it happened.
yeah.
And then I don't remember. Afterwards, it's very blurry because we're running on very low fuel.
I'm glad
It's
we
kind
have
of bland.
photographic evidence because I barely remember. I just remember curling up in on the ground because I was so cold to like preserve my heat. And then every once in a while, you'd be like, "Oh, like Beyonce walked by or something." There were like celebrities walking by us because we were right behind
Mhm.
the gate that separates the plebes like us from like the VIPs. And so we
Mhm.
saw VIPs walk by. I don't remember every one of them, but you would call them out, and I'll get up from my ball and be like, oh, who is
Mhm.
it?
Yeah. And I remember afterwards, somehow we ran into your brother on the street. Do you remember that?
Oh, I vaguely do. Why was he there?
I don't know,
Oh,
but it was not planned.
and
We
that
just
was a crazy time. There's so many
randomly ran into
people.
him. What else? Oh, the photo of in your apartment.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
like we are pre-gaming
Yeah.
and the food. I don't know what to make. What are we eating?
Um,
Do you see it?
I think one is curry. Yeah, I see it. I think it's
Yeah.
curry and rice. It looks like Indian food, and somebody
Mhm.
made curry with eggs in it, boiled eggs and
But it's
rice
like the IKEA table with the cheap carpet, everybody crowded around.
on the ground and on the
Oh,
couch.
yeah.
This is a fun. We need to get a less blurry photo, but yeah, this is the pregame to the birthday party because I this is our joint birthday party with Danielle.
Hmm.
And then there's that other photo that we have of us at Shake Shack when close to
Yeah.
when it first opened up, and we're just like so young.
Yeah, that was fun.
These are good times.
Was that at nighttime?
It looks dark. It must have been dinner time. And then this photo of you with your dead arms, in my birthday dress, and you're just like,
Doing?
you're like,
Uh,
but look at the
what
cheek.
are we
You look
doing?
so young. Here, you kind of
I
look like
look
Jason.
lifeless.
Look lifeless.
I remember I was kind of, I don't know if we're gonna keep this part, because I don't know if you stay in touch with this person, but one of the guys there, um, I don't know, he was like trying to talk to me and
Mhm.
I was a little bit over it. Like, what are we doing? I hate this. I hate like the games that happen, between like when you meet a guy for the first time. I was over it. Maybe
I think I know who
that
you're
was the
talking about.
moment. Maybe that was the moment I'm like,
You're
I'm
over
done
it.
with this guy talking to me.
I think I know who you're talking. There's not that many choices here. Um, I think I remember
Uh,
that.
and then there were some photos where we were pre-gaming at your house or your apartment, but then I already planned, to stay in. I'm just gonna
Right.
stay in and do some reading like a grandma. And you're all dressed up, ready to go clubbing.
And you're in your tank top and shorts.
Yeah, I'm ready for to lounge.
Yeah, to just chillax.
Yeah.
Man, we've come a long way. It's weird. Man, my skin looks so good. Your skin looks really good right now. What are you doing to your face? It looks so like tight.
Right now,
Yeah. Now.
I don't know. I'm not doing anything. I told you a couple episodes I mentioned that I stripped back my
Yeah.
routine.
It looks good.
I used that concealer thing. Maybe that's why it looks evened
Maybe.
out.
I think you have really good skin.
Hmm, thank you.
Yeah. Take the compliment. Exactly.
But yeah, looking back at these photos, I'm like, wow, I look so fresh.
So fresh.
So fresh, so young.
So fresh and so
My
young.
cheeks, are like
I know. So cute.
I also didn't wear makeup back then.
No, you didn't.
I didn't even know what mascara was. I started working for this agency in New York and I would go into work looking like that. And a lot of my job involved working with adults and
Mm.
parents with young children. And my boss took me aside and was like, maybe, very nicely, like, you think you want to try some wearing makeup to look to look older?
Yeah.
So I looked so young, and I was young.
You were young and you look
And
really young.
after work, one of my coworkers took me to Sephora because it was right next door to our building.
Oh, nice.
And that was my first encounter with makeup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the worker was like, "Oh, so have you ever tried mascara before? Because we have all these different brands." And I was like, "What's mascara?" And she was just like, Who is this girl?
Who's this young, fresh woman from Georgia
Yeah. So that was my first time learning about makeup.
to
I
look
honestly
older?
really don't even still don't know a lot,
Yeah.
but just enough
Yeah.
to at least not look tired all the time. The dark
Oh yeah,
circles.
that's real. No, you look good.
Yeah.
You look really good. We learned a lot during our time in New York and had good times, but it was really rough too. But do you think we got everything out of what we want out of New York when we first got there as a 22-year-old and when we left as a 24-year-old?
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that I went at the age that I did because I think that's when I had just the most energy
Mm,
to do all the like fun things that I
mm,
wanted to do.
mm,
Um, yeah, because there's so many opportunities in New York
mm,
to see like your favorite artists
mm,
and
mm,
yeah, go out at night.
mhm,
But I think I was done after
mm,
those 2 years.
mm,
It's for me personally, it's a
mhm,
really fun and exciting place to visit
mhm,
as a tourist. But I
mm,
think it's kind of a lot for
mm,
me to keep up with in terms
mm,
of like day to day.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah. What about you?
I think I went to New York thinking I am going to become a paralegal to prepare for law school and then work in international law. And then
Mhm.
while I was paralegaling, I learned I hated like LSATs and legal memo writing. I didn't like being a lawyer. I saw all these lawyers around me and I was like, I don't want this kind of job. But at the law firm I was paralegaling at, they had a pro bono practice that helped asylum seekers who either because of their religious persecution or sexual orientation persecution. They were seeking asylum in the US and they were working on applications with the US government's Department of Homeland Security to help these individuals get asylum in the US or get refugee status
Mhm.
and work with like Iraqi refugees. I I think that opened my eyes up to a different way to serve people and I pivoted from studying from the LSATs to the GREs, went to grad school afterwards in Boston for foreign policy because I thought I was going to help with North Korean refugee resettlement type of stuff. So I think in that professional sense, I learned a lot to how to, um, what I didn't want to do, which was law, and switch to grad school and go to school for foreign policy.
Mhm.
Um, and then personally, I think it was a important time in my life because, the last episode we talked about our conservative Christian Korean church upbringing. I think I
Mhm.
really needed to like break free from everything that was holding me back as, a pastor's kid in Georgia and being Christian and all of these things and trying to figure out who I am and what I was. And even though I was like a lost soul, I guess people could say my mom was really concerned. I'm really glad she prayed for me while I was in New York because New York can be a very dangerous place for 22-year-old women. Um, I felt like it was a necessary time to like figure life out, and I'm really glad I had an opportunity to come back to New York in my 30s to um work in politics and then meet my husband here if I
Yeah,
hadn't
I was
come back
gonna
to New York,
say,
right? I would
yeah.
have met Trevor. And find another way to experience the city, but not, living in Brooklyn also gives me a different perspective. Like it's quieter and slower paced here, but
Mhm.
yeah, I would say I'm glad we went to New York. I don't think it was exactly what I thought I would get out of it, but I'm grateful.
Mhm.
I'm glad that we got to do it together, honestly, with
Yeah.
Christine and my roommate from college, Lena, too.
Yeah. And I love that, you're there now and
Yeah.
you found things that really root you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my
You found your
political
person.
community. Yeah, I found my husband And then I found like a really good faith community here. My Christian community is very strong in New York, and my faith has grown so much living in New York this third time around. So I'm really grateful to be living here, as hard as it can be sometimes.
Still trying to convince you though to come out to the West Coast.
Hey man, it's not off the table. I'm very open to Seattle one day.
All right, so we're gonna go into our rapid fire segment. And this is a list of questions that our intern Maria has provided for us because she couldn't be with us today.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria. So the first question is, what is your go-to comfort movie?
Oh, my go-to comfort movie, I'm not sure, but TV show would be Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David.
Mm,
I feel so relaxed and I have fun when I watch that show.
yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What is your go-to comfort movie or
For me,
TV
I
show?
like my comfort show would be Friends.
Yeah.
I mean, it can just even be on in the background.
Yeah.
And sometimes what's that show? It's like the other Friends kind of show.
Oh.
Oh,
The
How I
other.
Met Your Mother,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is funny because they have an episode, I think, where, oh, you're not a real New Yorker until you've broken down and cried on the subway or something like that. And we're
Oh,
talking
that is so
about
real.
those
That is so
moments.
real.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Who was your favorite or who was your childhood celebrity crush or current crush?
Um, okay, so none of my friends could understand why, but I used to have a huge crush on Elijah Wood, who played Frodo.
Why?
Because his character,
As
I
Frodo?
just, yeah, so brave and like committed,
Oh, okay.
honorable, and all, and
Did you
I
like his eyes?
and his eyes, yeah.
Okay.
But I
Makes
don't
sense.
I don't know if I would say now I'm attracted to that, but that was
For
my
Frodo.
crush. And my friend
Mhm.
created this like collage for me with Elijah Wood for me to
Mm.
put in my locker.
Mhm.
But nobody could relate to that.
I'm sure there are people who can. It's just not people we know.
What about you? Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Daniel Henney, hands down.
Oh, yeah, he's very handsome.
And do you remember when Bobe shared how she met Daniel Henney and took a photo with her when I brought her to the CK gala? And the entire night I was trying to figure out how do I get a photo with Daniel Henney? And then came out of the bathroom and Daniel Henney just was standing there. She's like, "Can I get a photo?" And then she got the photo with Daniel Henney.
Wait, you were in
Yes.
the bathroom?
No,
Oh
I was in the ballroom and then she went to the bathroom and when she was coming out of the bathroom, he was just happened to just be in the hallway because it was next to the VIP room he was in.
she happened to be there.
She didn't even know who Daniel Honey was until I mentioned it. She didn't really care.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he's very handsome.
he's very handsome. And I think he's married now, so that's good for him.
Mm.
And so are we. So good for us.
We can
Uh
still find people attractive.
mhm. Yeah.
Why are
Next
you saying it like that?
next question. Next question. Next question.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Something that just comes immediately to my biggest pet peeve, I think, is when people don't say thank you or show some kind of gratitude after something is done for them. You
Mm,
just take things for granted when someone does something for them.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You? What's your biggest pet peeve?
Um, I don't know. I think when people, when people shake their leg,
Oh yeah, that's
like the
annoying.
restless leg.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I honestly don't mind it,
Mm.
but it does get uh like on my nerves, I guess,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
when you're sitting like on the same bench
Oh, yeah.
or
You can
it's
feel it.
making a sound.
Yeah.
Like if there's like a paper or the
Yeah.
floor is creaky and it's just like because of the shaking you hear the
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That makes sense. What's your love language of the five?
Um, my love language. Maybe
Words of
touch.
affirmation. Touch? Oh, touch.
I
Do
like
you
to
know
be
that
touched.
do you know that new K-pop song called Touch by Cat's Eye? You should
No.
listen to it. It's cute. It's like touch, 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 na 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 na, touch, touch,
Yeah.
touch, touch,
Oh
touch.
yeah, I've heard that. Oh, that's what they're saying?
Touch. Yeah, it's called Touch. Is that true of your friends too? Like if like I gave you a hug, like that's your love language versus like what does touch look like with like
Yeah, well,
non
so I don't like I try to be careful with my friends because I know everybody has different boundaries, but I am a naturally affectionate person.
Ah, okay.
Um, yeah.
Got it.
So touch me more.
Oh, gross. Don't say it like that. Strange woman.
What's your love language?
I said it earlier that prayer is a word of affirmation. So words of affirmation is my love
Mhm.
language for sure. Yeah.
Mm. Do you feel like you are more free in your 20s than you are now?
No, I feel more free now, but I think there's
Mhm.
this like misperception that I think free is different when you're in your 20s versus in your late 30s because there's so many more responsibilities as we become older adults, like taking care of our family and
Yeah,
let, you know,
maybe more free to make like mistakes.
yes, we're free to make mistakes and free as in there's just less obligations in your 20s. You can just do
Hmm.
whatever you want. You're really just like it's you and the world and whoever you
All
want to
your
take
money's
in, you
going to
know.
rent.
Oh my God, I know like 50% of my money I earned went to rent and then to go out. I had no
Mhm.
savings.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I think in a different way, I feel more free now.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, thanks for listening.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us in this conversation. And if anything resonated with you, feel free to DM us or leave a comment. We'd
Mm-hmm.
love to hear from you.
Yeah.
To all our friends listening,
Fighting!
fighting!
You got this.